When was the last time you took a real vacation? Not a long weekend where you checked emails the whole time. Not a family obligation trip where you spent more energy managing everyone else's needs than relaxing. I'm talking about an actual, genuine, restorative break where you prioritized your own rest and enjoyment. If you're struggling to remember, or if the idea of taking time off makes you feel guilty or anxious, you might be dealing with something deeper than just a busy schedule. You might be a people pleaser. And here's what nobody tells you about people pleasing. It's not about being nice or considerate or a good person. It's about a fundamental belief that your worth depends on what you do for others, and that taking care of yourself is somehow selfish or wrong. So let's unfold what's really happening in the minds of people who can never say yes to themselves. Because understanding this pattern might be the permission you've been waiting for to finally put yourself first. People pleasers live by an invisible rulebook that nobody else can see, but that governs every decision they make. And one of the biggest rules in that book is this: other people's needs always come before your own. Always. So when vacation time rolls around, your brain doesn't think, "Finally, I can rest." It thinks, "But what about everyone else? What about your co-workers who have to cover for you? What about your boss who might see you as less committed? What about your family who needs you to be available? What about the projects that will pile up while you're gone?" The idea of being unavailable, of not being there to help, of disappointing someone or letting someone down, it feels almost physically unbearable. So you don't take the vacation. You save those days. You tell yourself you'll use them later, when things calm down, when it's more convenient for everyone else. But that time never comes. Because for a people pleaser, there's always someone who needs something, and their need will always feel more important than your rest. But here's the thing. This isn't really about the vacation at all. It's about what the vacation represents. Taking time off means setting a boundary. It means saying, "My needs matter," and "I deserve rest," and "The world can function without me for a week." And for people pleasers, those statements feel dangerous. They feel selfish. They feel like a violation of the core identity you've built your entire life around. The person who's always available, always helpful, always willing to sacrifice their own comfort for someone else's convenience. You've probably been praised for this your whole life. Teachers loved that you were so responsible. Employers appreciated that you never complained about extra work. Friends and family got used to the fact that you'd always be there when they needed you. And somewhere along the way, you internalized a belief that this is what makes you valuable. That if you stop being useful, if you stop being the person everyone can count on, you'll stop mattering. Psychologists call this external validation dependency. Your sense of worth isn't coming from within, it's coming from other people's approval, appreciation, and need for you. And that's a terrifyingly unstable foundation to build a life on. Because what happens when you can't meet everyone's needs? What happens when someone is disappointed in you despite your best efforts? What happens when you're too exhausted to help? If your value as a person is tied to your usefulness, then rest becomes a threat to your identity. Taking a vacation isn't just taking time off, it's risking your worthiness. It's testing whether people will still care about you when you're not doing something for them. And that's a test most people pleasers aren't willing to take. There's also something deeper happening here, something rooted in childhood. Many people pleasers grew up in environments where love felt conditional. Maybe you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable unless you were being helpful or achieving something. Maybe there was instability in your home, and you learned that being good, being helpful, being low maintenance was how you kept the peace. Maybe you watched a caregiver struggle, and you took on the role of the responsible one, the one who never added to the burden. Children are incredibly perceptive, and if you learned early on that your needs were too much, that asking for things led to rejection or frustration, you probably adapted by becoming the person who never asks for anything, the person who gives and gives and gives and never expects anything in return. And now, decades later, you're still operating from that same survival strategy, even though the context has completely changed. The cost of this pattern is enormous, even if it's invisible to everyone around you. You're exhausted, You're resentful, even if you'd never admit it. You're disconnected from your own desires because you've spent so much time focused on everyone else's that you've forgotten what you even want. You might not even know how to relax anymore because your nervous system is so used to being in service mode, scanning for what others need, anticipating problems, managing emotions that aren't even yours. Rest feels uncomfortable because you're not doing anything productive. Vacation feels wasteful because you're not being useful. And all the while, you're burning out in slow motion, telling yourself that you're fine, that you don't need a break, that other people have it worse. But here's what I want you to understand. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And not just in the cliched, you can't pour from an empty cup way, though that's true too. It's necessary because you are a person who deserves rest and joy and pleasure for no other reason than the fact that you exist. Your worth isn't contingent on your productivity or your availability or how much you sacrifice for others. You matter because you're here. And the belief that you have to earn the right to rest by first meeting everyone else's needs is a lie you were taught, probably by people who were exhausted and overwhelmed themselves and didn't know any better. The irony is that people pleasers are often surrounded by people who have no problem taking vacations, setting boundaries, saying no, prioritizing their own needs. And instead of recognizing that those people aren't selfish, they're just healthy, you probably judge yourself even more harshly. You think, I should be more like them, while simultaneously believing that if you were more like them, you'd be a bad person. It's a double bind. You're stuck between knowing you need to change and being terrified of what will happen if you do. So what does it actually look like to break this pattern? It starts with recognizing that your fear isn't really about the vacation. It's about what taking the vacation means. It means tolerating the discomfort of other people's disappointment. It means accepting that you can't control how people perceive you. It means sitting with the anxiety that comes up when you're not being productive. And yes, those things are uncomfortable. But discomfort isn't the same as danger. Your brain might be screaming that if you take this time off, something terrible will happen. You'll be seen as lazy, you'll be replaced, you'll lose people's respect. But that's just the old survival programming talking. The reality is that most people won't even notice you're gone, and the ones who do will manage just fine without you. Here's a question worth sitting with. What would it mean if the world kept turning while you were on vacation? What if your co-workers covered for you without resentment? What if your projects waited and nothing fell apart? What if your family figured things out on their own? Would that be a relief? Or would it be terrifying? Because if your identity is built around being indispensable, then being dispensable, even temporarily, can feel like an existential threat. But the truth is, you're not indispensable. None of us are. And that's actually a gift, not a tragedy. It means you're allowed to rest. It means the weight of the world isn't actually on your shoulders. It means you can step away, and everything will be okay. Taking a vacation when you're a people pleaser is an act of radical self-respect. It's a declaration that your needs matter. It's practice in setting boundaries. It's proof that your worth isn't tied to your usefulness. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty. You might worry the whole time. You might even check in more than you should. But that's okay. You're learning a new way of being, and learning takes time. The goal isn't to suddenly become someone who doesn't care what others think. The goal is to become someone who cares about their own well-being as much as they care about everyone else's. So if you're reading this and you've got vacation days sitting unused, or you've been putting off that trip, or you've been telling yourself you don't really need a break, consider this your permission slip. You deserve rest. You deserve joy. You deserve to prioritize yourself without guilt. And the people in your life who truly care about you, they want that for you too. They don't want you to burn out. They don't want you to sacrifice your health and happiness for their comfort. And if there are people in your life who do expect that from you, who get upset when you set boundaries or take time for yourself, that's information. That tells you something about the relationship that's worth paying attention to. Because here's the truth that people pleasers need to hear. You can be kind and caring and considerate while also having boundaries. You can be helpful and generous while also protecting your own energy. You can be there for people you love while also being there for yourself. It's not an either-or, it's a both-and. And the more you practice prioritizing your own needs, the more you'll realize that the sky doesn't fall. The relationships that matter don't crumble. The people who love you don't leave. What does change is that you start to feel more alive, more present, more like yourself. Because you're not just going through the motions of life, checking boxes and meeting obligations. You're actually living, and that's what you deserve. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Are you a people pleaser? When was the last time you took a real vacation? And if you want to keep exploring the psychology behind everyday struggles, hit that subscribe button. Because understanding yourself isn't just interesting, it's the beginning of real freedom.